quickly wrap up the rest of my history then. I went from KMM to Sega, where I worked for about 6 months until they shut down Sega. So that didn't last very long.
Mhm.
And that's where I thought, bugger this. I'm done with just getting fired from companies. I'm going to start my own studio,
Mhm.
and the next studio that gets shut down, I lose my job from, is going to be my own.
Mhm.
So yeah, hopefully that won't happen. But hey, yeah. So I taught myself how to program. I made my
Oh,
first
so you were
game, the Eyes
just
of
like
Ara.
an art guy before that.
Yes, I was totally environment art. I had dabbled in design in my own time, but hadn't done it professionally. Had never programmed before,
Mhm.
and I was actually very worried about it.
Okay.
I was very worried that I wouldn't be able to do it because I did a programming semester at university and I understood nothing. Like I did not get it.
Right.
It made no sense to me, and I was like, I think they gave me like a pity pass. I called it.
Mhm.
Like they don't want to fail anyone, so we'll give you like the lowest possible mark just to get you over the line.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. So when it came to like when I thought, okay, the tools now, because Unity was just becoming quite big at the time. Unreal wasn't really at the point where it was viable as an indie at that
Mhm.
point, as a solo indie. But it would soon become that a couple of years later.
Mhm.
But at the time, Unity was really coming into its own. C Sharp, I had heard, was fairly easy to learn. And there was also a lot of like visual scripting tools and stuff available as well.
Mhm.
So I thought, okay, I can at least try this.
Mhm.
And so I did some online courses to try and learn C Sharp programming, and I actually found it like actually not that bad
Yeah,
and quite
you realized
intuitive
quickly that
and
the issue
like
was how it was
yeah,
being taught to you, not the.
exactly. That's exactly what it was. And what I realized, like back at uni, they were basically teaching us pseudocode,
Mhm.
where we'd write out in pseudocode what we wanted the functions to do, and it made no sense. I did not get it, and even to this day, I don't do that. It's like no, I just write the code, like
Yeah.
yeah. Anyway, so the course I did basically explained it by having you write code and explaining what an if statement was and what a loop was and how these
Imagine.
things function. And it's like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Cool. All right, I can do that.
Mhm. Yeah,
So
that's
yeah,
why like I went to UniSA. They originally did a Python course as their first course and then migrated into Java and other things. Now they do an entire year of Python just to teach fundamentals because there's no point doing the pseudocode nonsense. Python is basically pseudocode, but it does things. Like it's an easy language. You don't need that much to understand. There's weird like the Python people are going to explain some like weird complex Python things, but like the basic stuff to teach you how programming works, if statements, loops, all of that stuff, very very simple.
sure. And that's like, I tell other artists that want to get into games, like, oh, should I learn programming? Is it hard? Can I make a game myself if I don't know how to program? Like, yeah, you can, because like 99% of what you'll do is if statements and loops. Once you can do those, you can make a game.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I know that professional programmers out there would probably roll their eyes at that and have a heart attack, but like, it's true. Like, so I built my first game. It's basically if statements and loops. That's it. That's it. Once you got that you're like 90% of the way there.
So that first game, that is the Eyes of Ara, yes?
Yes. So that's it's almost like a simplified version of what I'm building now. So it was my first game. It was my first solo project. I tried deliberately to keep the scope really manageable. So we were talking about how there's no jump button and no falling off edges in the current game. In Eyes of Ara, there's not even any movement. Like you don't even walk around.
Okay.
It's purely point and click. So, well, partly is because it was designed as a mobile game first. I ended up launching on PC first and then going to mobile just because it ended up being easier to develop in that direction. But originally, I was designing it as a mobile game, which I would potentially later port to PC. Um, so it was entirely designed around touch-based controls. So you would drag the screen to look around, and you would tap on a door, and then the camera would move and fade out and fade into the next room. You tap on a puzzle, the camera zooms into the puzzle, then you like drag things around, touch, tap, twist, turn. Very, very like tactile interaction. Um, Again, yeah, basically designed to be played on a phone, right? Um, but I ended up releasing it on PC first just because I was developing on PC anyway, and it was just easier to get it out on PC first and then downscale it to mobile rather than go the other direction. But as a result, a lot of the design sensibilities of the game were catered around that. But also, I chose that path because I wanted to keep it simple for myself. Because again, I wasn't a programmer. I was learning how to program as I built the game. So I wanted to simplify it as much as possible and remove as much complexity as possible from the programming. So it's all very simple interactions in terms of code. It's like click the thing, animation plays. Drag the thing, opens a door, whatever.
Right, I'm seeing the trailer here, and there's like a bit where there's like a paper with cutouts on it, and you like line it up with the numbers that are on the other thing behind it. And like there's another one in here. There's another like a line one where you have to like select the different lines that are visible. And clearly like it's very simple stuff here. There's a lot of like rotating an object. Much the same as like what you have in this game, but it's a different aesthetic here. I can see how a lot of what you learnt from that game has been applied to this one as well.
Well, that's kind of where this game, where the new game comes in, right? So I built Eyes of Ara, and I learned a lot doing it. I learned how not to program for a start, because the programming, the code in Eyes of Ara is awful spaghetti code. It's just awful. It's atrocious. The new game is much, much cleaner. I'm very, very proud of the new game.
And that's what you're going to think when you go to your next game. You're like, wow, what the hell was I doing on the last one?
Oh, I'm sure. But I already know it's miles better than the last one. So, hopefully next game will be miles better again. But yeah, so like in terms of the design, this new game, I basically wanted to take what I built the first time and expand upon that. So it was a puzzle game, but you couldn't move around. So okay, I want to make a game that focuses more on exploration and is more freeform, so you can actually walk around the environment. One thing I wanted to change from the first one is that there is a large number of puzzles in the game. Quite a large number of puzzles in the game. Almost every one of them is unique. And I think as a result of that, the quality overall tends to drop.
Right.
I think there's a few really good puzzles in there I'm quite happy with. But I also feel the quality suffered in a few areas as well. Just because the sheer number of them, I couldn't give them enough attention. Or I needed a puzzle to fill up a part of the game and had to come up with something.
Right.
So I was like, okay, that's, and people seem to love the game. It's still like on Metacritic, it's got the highest rating than any game I've ever worked on. So, could be proud of that. But, there were parts of it I wasn't happy with personally. So the new game, I was like, okay, I'm going to have fewer puzzles in the game, but I'm going to spend more time on them and make them better and more interesting puzzles. So that was kind of my two pillars going into it from the old game, was fewer but more interesting puzzles and more exploration built into the environment. Yeah. So it is very much just an evolution of what I was doing last time. So it's I guess technically the same genre of game. There's kind of adventure puzzle, but blended with Metroidvania elements in this case. But so it's a very different take on that genre. So I certainly wouldn't say they're similar in many ways, but there's definitely an evolution.
Right. So does this mean your next game's going to have a jump button and you're going to have platforming puzzles?
It might. No promises. Maybe. We work on one dimension at a time.
Right. No, I think that's a good way to do it. Instead of trying to, you see a lot of indie game devs where it's like, hey, I want to make a game. What do you want to make? Oh, an MMORPG. It's like, no, stop. Don't do that.
Don't. Yeah. I mean, even this game is too big. Like, it was supposed to be smaller than Eyes of Ara. It's shaping up to be larger and take longer, which was the two things I didn't want to do, but here we are. So, I'm terrible at estimating scope. Everyone's bad at it, especially if you've never done it before. So, do not make an MMORPG. You will not finish it. I'm making what is supposed to be a 6-hour exploration puzzle game, and it's already taking me close to 3 years and ongoing. So, go small, people.
Right.
Go small.
Yep.
And then cut it in half, and half again.